Alright, this is attempt number 4, this time with an MP4 file, because the update changed the file type, so I wasn't able to use the last couple files I made. This is once again with one earphone off, as I thought that was the best one. Okay, let's take a sip. Okay. I remember being in primary school, grade 5 or 6, and we had a rule where if nobody got their name put on the board for the whole day, we got 5 minutes of free time at the end of the day, or something like that. I was a quiet kid and just did my thing, so I never really got my name put on the board. One time in art class, the teacher heard about this rule and everybody was excited because it was almost the end of the day and nobody got their name put on the board. We had to come up with an idea for an art piece and start working on it, and I couldn't come up with any ideas. I couldn't force my creativity. And the teacher said that if I didn't come up with an idea, I'd get my name on the board and everybody would lose free time. Other kids suggested ideas for me, but I didn't like any of them, and the teacher began to count down from 10. The other kids started yelling at me and telling me it wasn't that hard, screaming ideas and demanding that I come up with something. As the teacher counted down, the other kids got louder and louder. I was having a panic attack, and I was so stressed I went into the fight, flight, or freeze response, and I froze. The teacher reached 0 and put my name on the board. All the other kids ran up to my table and screamed in my face and threw things at me, and my teacher did nothing. Safe to say, my parents were fucking pissed off as shit, and I didn't see that teacher too much after that, but it's left a permanent stain on my art practice. I struggle to plan art projects quite a bit. I usually find my best and favorite art is created when I'm using Instinctualism, which is basically when you make an art piece on the fly, or have a rough idea of what you want to make rather than spending lots of time planning beforehand. This lets me follow ideas as they come up, rather than following a rigid structure of what the art is about. For me, this lets me create an art piece and decide what it means to me, rather than coming up with an idea and struggling to find ways to visually represent and support it. I literally have hundreds of quotes written down that could be turned into an art piece, but never will because I can't figure out how to create a strong visual representation of the quote, and I hold myself to a very high standard for what visuals are worth showing. I'd rather have a gallery full of visually strong art pieces that are available for audience interpretation than conceptually strong but visually lacking art pieces. Recently, I tried to make an art piece with lots of planning behind it, but midway through I realized, oh, this isn't actually that fun or visually interesting to me. I was just making it because conceptually it ticks the boxes, which is hard to realize before you start making it. So it made the art piece a chore to finish, and it certainly killed my motivation for it. Whereas if I just had a rough idea that was expected to change and be fluid, it would have been more fun and interesting to make. To be fair, this also creates lots of potential problems that could come up, like the materials I'm using aren't working the way I want them to, or the art piece demands different mediums to look the best it can. For me, this isn't too big of a problem because I find that I am great at being able to improvise and fix problems as they come up. Unless something turns out to be a lot more effort than I thought it would, in which case I'll stick to it if it seems worth the outcome or not. But this isn't that bad because I can just start making something new or just finding a different way of creating the same idea. It's a very trial and error process, but it's one that's more enjoyable for me. My art is typically quite dark and confronting because it is often focused around mental health, social problems, or the pain and suffering we see others go through. I've studied psychology and went from having scheduled sessions with a counselor to seeing a therapist every week in high school, and I was diagnosed with anxiety. My family has quite a history with drugs and addiction, and my whole family and I work in disability support, helping people with intellectual disabilities. So I'd like to think that my understanding of the extremely complicated and uncomprehendable human brain is somewhat okay. I've studied the philosophies of what the secret to what a good life is, one that is happy and fulfilling, yet filled with enough suffering to let you know when you're happy, but suffering for a greater cause than oneself, and not chasing an idea that's corrupted, but one that supports your fellow humans, and yet I still have no clue where to start. I hope that by creating my art, I will build something greater than myself, and give people the opportunity to connect with my art, or feel heard and seen, or just give the opportunity to question one's own actions and thinking. I'd like to think that by listening to this, you are taking the time out of your day to listen to someone else's story and hear what they have to think, and maybe change how you think. And I think that that's very beautiful, and that the world deserves more people like you. My name is Aramis Jenkin, and thank you for watching. I really appreciate it.